Hey guys, welcome back to Katawa Shoujo. My roommates came back earlier, so I had to stop. Last time, we had blind sex with, Lily. Yeah. And Akira gave us a little ring-a-ding-ding. So, here we are. Could you meet me, let's actually, I get, okay, yeah, she was asking if you were busy at that moment. Could you meet me at the park in town? I just want to talk to you about some stuff. Is that an invitation to a date? Haha. What? Of course not. She sounds suddenly crestfallen, her previous teasing nature having instantaneously left. It seems strange for her. Anyway, I don't see why not. When do you want to meet? Kind of now-ish. Wait, right now? But it's... The dead silence suddenly coming from the phone announces the fact that she has unceremoniously hung up. For a long time, I just stand there staring at the call ended message on the screen while replaying the conversation in my head. What the hell, Akira? Throwing a glance up and down the street, I cross the road and step into the park. I've learned to pace myself on such walks, mostly because Lily's slower speed during our forays into town means I have to consciously slow myself down. That aside, I hope Akira didn't expect me to be immediately prompt. Oh, cool, we get a cool picture of Akira. It takes only a couple seconds to spot her, waiting on a bench with a can of beer in her hand. The look she gives me as I walk up lacks any hint of acknowledgement or greeting. What's with that look? I needn't have come, you know. I knew you would. You're that kind of person, after all. I lower my brow at her remark as she disposes of the can, emptied by the time I arrived, and a metallic clatter rings out. And if you didn't catch it, it did go right at the beginning. Akira takes a seat on the old wooden bench, and I follow her lead. She takes another can of beer from beside her and opens it before speaking, taking a large gulp. She seems to really like that stuff. I suppose I don't need to ask what this is about, or rather who it's about. I heard from Lily that you asked about our family. They share more than phone numbers, that's for sure. I'd probably be very worried right now if it weren't for a total lack of malice in her voice. Well, rather, her tone sounds almost wistful. Idle curiosity, mostly. I have to admit, I'd never have guessed you two were half Scottish. She gives a wry chuckle of amusement. I've heard that before, trust me. The small smile falls from her face. Her eyes look ahead distantly. Aside from the occasional elderly couple talking as they slowly walk the meandering paths and the odd aging car, yeah, it's pleasantly quiet. She didn't tell you everything, though, did she? It was pretty brief. Your parents live in Scotland. She hasn't met them since she was 12, and she wants to meet them again. It's always surprised me how devoted she is to our parents for all the good they did us. The way she says it sounds like almost derisive. Derisive? I don't know. She gives a small sigh as if to quickly brush the feelings away. Why do you think they left, Hisao? Why do I think they left? From what Lily told me, it was because of work. I guess a pretty decently paying job was involved as well, given the way your parents seem to live. So Lily went to a private school, and that's why she carries herself with the airs and graces of the upper class. Yeah, since the business in Inverness boomed, our father decided to move directly to the same city as its headquarters. That's just the conclusion I'd thought you'd come to, though. You're too good-natured. You don't think they left for their career? I'm sitting here bitching to you about it. What do you think? Yamaku Academy. I've always felt the place was kind of creepy. Like an isolated hideout for those proper society doesn't want to see nor hear. They probably just rue the fact that Lily wasn't old enough to be shoved there by the time they left. A long silence follows her abrupt and very harsh criticism of her own parents and Yamaku. Lily's blindness is hardly something that could be simply ignored for a high-class family attempting to keep up appearances, much less so when a lucrative offer is on the table. Eventually, Akira gives a derisive snort, her feelings coming to a head. Moving to secure a financial future with his new job posting. Even at the time, I hardly believed it. Not wanting to simply be an avenue for her venting, I gently tried to steer the discussion. So you stayed in Japan with Lily then? Either I stayed with her, or she went to live with an ailing grandmother and grandfather. What about Shizun's family? If you're cousins, then... Our fathers hate each other. I'd have been more than happy to tell them to go screw themselves and live with them anyway, but Lily wouldn't have wanted that. I'd also had an offer for a job by then, so we did our best to keep our parents' house in proper shape and tried to continue our lives as if they'd never left. So you just lived by yourselves? Basically, Lily had school and I had my job, so we weren't exactly languishing. With her schooling, her study, and having to do chores while I worked, though, I can't help feeling like I failed her. In the end, I tried to be there for her and screwed it up. Expecting a 19-year-old to be a mother for a blind child, it's ridiculous. So, Lily and Akira lived alone after their parents moved, with Lily largely taking care of herself. I guess that explains her apparent independence compared to many in Yamaku. I may have lived alone much of the time since my parents both worked, but that's just something else entirely. Sorry for making you listen to my moaning, Hisao. I don't mind at all, but do you mind if I ask why you're telling me all this? You always were curious. Context, I suppose. Life isn't a fairy tale, Hisao. Some people have to learn that the hard way. She takes a large drink from the can in her hand, her face becoming more depressed than distant. I broke up with my boyfriend a few days ago. After I leave, we're not going to be able to see each other again. That's how life is. You can't just set your life up and expect it to stay that way forever. Sometimes stuff happens that you have to roll with, even if it means hurting yourself or others. I'll be right back. Alright, and I'm back. She takes a long breath before looking up at the bright orange sky. Damn, if I smoked, I'd take a nice long drag right now and look kinda cool. I want to respond and help her in whatever way I can, but I feel utterly useless. This kind of situation is one I've never been in. I simply don't have the experience to say anything meaningful to comfort her. Akira looks over and evidently picks up on this, much to my embarrassment. I must look pretty pathetic right now, whining about this to someone I barely know. Hardly, and I'm pretty much an expert on looking pathetic. She gives a chuckle, the act feeling like a personal victory for me. You're a good kid, Isao. When I said that I approved of you being with my sister, I wasn't joking, or just being nice. She picks herself off the seat with a grunt, one that seems ill-fitting given her age, and throws the now empty can into the bin after one last swig. I'll be back later. I'll be back later. Alrighty, back. Hopefully my roommate won't come out again. Ugh. Anyways, yeah. It's just uncomfortable. That doesn't really count for much in this world. Unfortunate. Okay, there we go. When I said that I was leaving for Scotland, I was doing it because a good position opened up in our company's headquarters. When our folks told me that when we were at their place, though, they also gave Lily a summons to rejoin them in Inverness. No way. Her evasiveness when asked about her future, that awkwardness that had steadily grown between us, that uncharacteristic outburst of anger, all of them suddenly fit into place. The same family that she reminisced about after Hanako's birthday party, the same family that left her and Akira but to themselves after taking flight to greener pastures. Now I feel stupid for never cornering Lily on what was bugging her. I'd never even considered if something had happened during her trip to her family's home at Inverness. And now a sense of unease grows in my chest. If her family had summoned her to join them in Scotland, all the way on the other side of the earth, has she accepted? Lily hasn't told me whether she plans to accept, and it seems she hasn't told you either. That's why I called you down here to talk, Hisao. Context, huh? I sit back, my feelings of worry and frustration no doubt written all over my face. Lily's a strong person, Hisao, but she's not infallible. Fallible. I guess it's my job to worry about her, being her older sister, but I think that you deserve to know. I understand. You okay? You sound depressed. No, I'm just thinking. That's good. Thinking is good. Being rash won't get you anywhere. She looks at her watch, barely moving her wrist. I've got to go. Will you be okay? I'll be fine, don't worry. I'll have to talk to Lily about it and get everything sorted out. She gives a smile, but doesn't feel all that genuine or sincere. Really, both of us are dancing around the fact that Lily's on a precipice of the biggest decision of her life, and is trying to take the entire burden on herself. And part of that burden is a matter of our relationship. By the time I look up, Akira's already walking off with her hand held up. For the first time in a long time, I finally have an answer to something. Perhaps not even that, but at least I now have the right question to ask. Will you leave or stay? I really want to finish this and then get everything rendered and then party. But not really. Hurry, Lily. I'm moving as fast as I can. I can barely make out Lily's voice over the deafening pounding of the rain. Even though I dislike pulling her around, the situation calls for it. I turned forward, my free hand over my head in a futile attempt to keep at least my hair dry. How big is your hand, bro? Sheesh. My vision seems to be in grayscale. This really is rotten weather for summer, and the last kind of climate I'd want for a date. A pity. I'd even checked the weather forecast beforehand, and one of the very few times I've ever done so. Only for it to say Sunday afternoon would be fine. Looking to Lily, her shoulders are now completely drenched, with her right hand holding tightly to mine, with her left gripping her retracted cane. This horrid downpour came on just as we were between our destination and Yamaku, so we decided to try rushing the rest of the distance rather than doubling back. Entirely unused to running this fast, Lily's using all her concentration to avoid tripping over. Hisao, do you know where we're going? She's even reduced to shouting to try and be heard over the combined noise of the wind and rain. And the rest of my voice is completely drowned out by even heavier bursts of rain. The what? The Shanghai! How far is it? It shouldn't be far now. It doesn't take long before I call out to her once again. It looks like we're here. It's just up ahead. I quickly pull out up to a stop just in front of the familiar exterior, the lantern outside still giving off a reliable glow. Wait for Lily to catch her breath before going in. Ladies first. The tiny bell inside rings out when I hold the door open for her, a smile and a polite nod being my reward before entering myself. As I step behind her and wipe my feet, only a quick glance is necessary to notice the distinct lack of activity. The Shanghai doesn't seem to get much in the way of patronage, and today's no different. Only a couple of tables are occupied. Summoned by the bells ringing, a most expected person comes to greet us. Welcome to the Shanghai. Yuko looks chipper today. Trying to predict her moods is pretty hard, but it's nice to change from the norm. Hello, Yuko. Hey. Good afternoon, you two. She takes a deep bow, somewhat taken aback as she rights herself again and gets a better look at us. What happened to you? You both look... Her eyes drift towards the glass of the door behind us. Oh dear. We're inside now, at least. I think that's the most important thing. It's nice and cozy. You're lucky to be working inside today. It has been nice and quiet. I like days like this. Oh wait, sorry. Is there anything you'd like? French vanilla tea, please. I'll have the same. Right, coming right up. She quickly skitters off with a determined look on her face, trying very hard not to forget our orders. If nothing else, she is at least dedicated to her jobs. I lead Lily to an empty seat before the two of us settle down. As usual, there's a large difference between my exhausted flopping down in my seat and Lily's delicate sliding into hers, her cane set beside her. For a while, I just idly watched the rain falling outside. The occasional person runs down the street trying to stay as dry as possible, hands often tightly gripping a rain-soaked umbrella. Lily sits just as quietly as I, her eyes closed as she intently listens to all that's happening. It's a comfortable, relaxing silence that exists between us, just the type that we'd so often shared together in the past months. For Lily, at least. I can't help replaying the words of her sister in my mind, at times contrasting them to both our time spent together since I entered Yamaku, and the way we've been since we started dating. No matter how much I try, I can't work Lily out. It's as if the harder I try, to second guess her emotions and her potential decision, the more difficult it becomes to reach a clear conclusion. It makes me doubt whether I'd ever really understood her. In the end, I'm going to have to ask, even though I very much want to avoid doing so. You seem quiet today, Hisao. Really? You seem so enthusiastic about taking me on a date. I'd assumed you had something specific you wanted to do. No, not really. Just wanted to spend some time with you. Is that so? Fine, there was one thing. A little grin finds its way onto Lily's face, her knowing full well that she's bested me. It makes what I want to say all the more awkward. It was just Akira and I were talking. Oh? What's with that tone? You two do seem to get on well, don't you? Well, I do think she's a pretty cool person to talk with. It'd be nice if any of the teachers were anything like her. Cool. For a moment, I try to place her tone of voice, my mouth curling in a smirk as I realize it. You're not jealous, are you? I'm not jealous. After her teasing me over such a thing on our first date, I don't feel too bad having a little laugh at her expense this time around. As we settle down, though, it's only a minor distraction from the real point of why I brought Lily here. Don't worry, it was mostly just everyday stuff. That said, there was something Akira mentioned that I wanted to talk to you about. When you went to see your family in Avernus a while back, she said, Akira told you about my family's summons, hasn't she? Seconds tick by while I try to read Lily's face, an odd mixture of feelings written on it. She seems annoyed, but also somewhat confused.